and conform person mu DS no, I'm sorry to say it, or they're applying absent-mindedness of doing things, and they're being ignorant, and their negligence is costing us a fortune. It's costing us our future. It's costing us our...
Ghana is a developing country and we still have weak institutions. Our elections are such that sometimes the government feels under great pressure to spend to sort of win over the electorate.
All the major competitive elections, we tend to overspend.
And this results in wide fiscal deficits.
So when you look at it from 1992 to 2016, the major election comes and then we destroy the fundamentals of the economy.
The country had lost quite a bit of sort of policy credibility.
I.M.F, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure.
Let's head to West Africa now, where the International Monetary Fund has approved a $3 billion bailout programme aimed at boosting Ghana's economy. The country has been battling its worst economic crisis in a generation. It's been hit by soaring inflation, high debt and a devaluing currency. But the country was once one of the continent's rising economic stars as a major global producer of commodities like gold and cocoa. So what exactly went wrong?
So we were an economy in a considerable state of distress.
But question I person be say why mo netua sika na mo koji free I.M.F no posiana ye koji free I.M.F no why mo netua sa posiano at the end of the day?
It comes at a cost to the country, it comes at a cost to citizens, it comes at a cost to the private sector.
Macro stability is like fresh air. You really value it when it disappears and you see all these costs.
I am happy the I.M.F is coming back, but I'm very disappointed because anytime I see the I.M.F, I see our failure as a people.
Well, it all starts with how Ghana became a rising star, and that was sometime in 2006. It got one of the biggest debt relief packages ever, the second largest in Africa, actually. $4.5 billion of its debt was wiped out, nearly 75% of its entire debt stock. That meant that it could all of a sudden borrow from international capital markets. It also discovered oil in 2007 and started producing in 2010. Combining all of those revenues together meant it could invest in large infrastructure projects, which then transformed the fortunes of the country. So that is how Ghana became a rising star. Unfortunately, we borrowed too much until eventually in 2014, we had to turn to the I.M.F for a bailout. That bailout simply allowed it to go back to the capital markets and borrow even more. So by 2019, thereabouts, it was starting to spend more than 60% of all its income, government income, domestic income, on servicing that debt. And by 2022, when this crisis hit, 75% or more of all government income was now going to servicing debt. So that's how Ghana fell from grace.
Since 1966, Ghana has been running to the I.M.F for loans upon loans, leaving the country in debt because of these irrelevant and ridiculous promises that our leaders have been making to the people of Ghana because they want to come back to power. So they make ridiculous promises, and to fulfill those promises, what do? They run to the I.M.F for more and more loans, leaving the country wallowing in debt. It is Kwame Bediako says so. The man mandate not about power. What is he going to do differently from what the previous governments have been doing all over the years? And they say within the country, no yankasa Ghana for nankasa ye wiskawe. It's yanka fan list na Kevin Taylor, my $3 million. Na yemfa and solve some of the problems happening in our country. Mamia Kuya don't call.
The Macan, when you decide to pay it, oh, him I travel, what's over for you? Why never be a fast hand? I am a man chair and I don't do some travel, or not over for you. There's one try that chair will be a.
For my $100,000, na yemfa tia sa can be. Funny face, who are you from? Oh, you show out. Sisi wabo dry. Into my $500 na yemfa solve some of the Chatawale una also wuska Ghana. Into one my be kurano. What am I $900,000? Yemfa bintu sakana o my Ghana ye president for akwa man ebre na youth for no ebre no. O my saskana ye be betimi de tua kano kra e be a developmental project. I industrialize the country na economy no I very stable. Tomboy going for Beam Nation my $500,000 na yemfa solve some of the problems that are happening in our country. Sa kwadi una also ye the king my $200,000 na sa nanka krakra na ye de tua kana my Ghana dino na yetumi alleviate him from poverty disassociate him from I.M.F.
That I'm here to help build this nation. I'm not here to take away from this nation so you come asking me questions as a government. I am coming here to be responsible, to be accountable. But to the Canada, you have to find a way to either borrow more money within Ghana itself and not outside. And that could be crowdfunded. That could be raising money from even the Guta Union. We can raise $50 million amongst ourselves as a union. You have it, but you don't know.
Asima me ke be ni se me kan ba bank no kra ni be wu ne o man ni be wu but 7 tons nansia no mo kope 7 aka ho ansa ne mo mo ye grant o mo 3 billion first na Ghana kra nke boro sika ya under $1 billion because of our reserves ukokata nso a o mo reserves e bia 300 tons. Omo ko jisika 200 billion at a time. Omo so omo ba be 6 stadiums near ade. Omo ba be World Cup. Omo be yese. Reserves no so gold no. Omo ni gold kra omo kuro. Omo no omo toy ho. Na wo hwe a ye man see to gold a. Na ya ton gold no de age dollars. Na ye twabia ma ye o cedis mu. Na oni pa kro no $100 ni ma no. O de gold na kusi ho. Eno na o de paging on the currency. Eno na backing the currency to make it stable. Ena o no wa bre o cedis and as dollars kakra no odi gold na osika na odi okurum no we dey pledge to on the dollar wa ukra gold no enti on the dollar na stable or the gold na na dey stable and wo de na choki ni sika no enti wo cedi no enhu dollar no kra so enso na ukra gold no.
Would you reverse that?
Of course. I mean, I'm sorry. This is dumb. I'm sorry to say it. Jimmy Sam. Say na Jimmy enso ya de a Nyankopon ni hu adro ontimi nsaw yare e wo ho obetimi asani pa bia yare ba fan o deaf o obesa yare ba wo hwe ba bi mu a obi a wajimi bia Nyankopon akasa twene safri ne ho enti e bia na o man no e bia ye bibisa bebre enti Nyankopon yi ne safri ya so say na me chwante ase because one mam gold one mam koko one mam bibia chinchina mo se mo bakwa abonte akobobosia na mo de abaye mo kwan na mo de ahwe obetimi akobobosia wa abonte e de abahwe nipa o mo ne nam kwa ho mo ni adwuma eni rosa wonya ye nyina wan na de ni sika be ma ewiase ha China na san wan na obekukuru hundreds of billions ama say ukromfo ahia o mo nti je 100 me bobosia na make sure so bia nya adwuma nya bibia di eye road dabi o ma 3 billion krana opeso of foul mine opeso joke concessions sika no so nya media amount en ne gu form no na wo de man crofo sa ukrom for kra ka to de o saka debi. So the mentality of slavery has taken over the souls of our fathers and our ancestors, and now I have come and I'm saying that no, let's change it. Let's end it.
But these are contractual agreements. Sign contracts. Some of these contracts be about 20 years, 30 years before it elapses. There are legal implications and how are you going to change?
I will cancel some of them. Even the debt in Ukraine, you better cancel debt in it. It will become a bad debt. Now I'll tell you why.
The I.M.F. and the World Bank.
I will tell you why. I will tell you why.
You cancel some of them.
Some of them automatically is human rights infringement. Some of them, yes, of course, because how can one government deal with another government to extract from a country? Do you think it's legal for me as a president to go to America na many American president akotena dem aka say na the party be California and I say Brooklyn na mame what you two former nyina na yi no ma no na me two so abetima politin crofo aku omo cheme kro mo de me betum so there laws be say wo akukudro na woni adia oba omu behu say ekoi obebie yachi because normally be ho na ye de asie yen enti say sha say ba out na broni nso de ompani dia say kra o kwantentem na onu be negotiate no aka say o de yenye ni say because ono asie na no any BBC ni ade nyina ye ne dia but CNN no so omusanya na ombesa aka na say.
Now let us look at what was our debt portfolio, because the debt portfolio affects the stability of the currency. John Mahama left us a debt portfolio of 120 billion Ghana cedis. That's a lot. 122 billion Ghana cedis. And we said it was unconscionable. I mean, how could John leave us such debt, staggering debt of 122 billion? Meanwhile, as we sit today, we have crossed 670 billion under Bawumia Nana.
What percentage of GDP?
670 billion. But you see, Randy, again, in all fairness, Japan's debt is like in trillions of dollars. So debt itself is not bad. But you must see what the debt has been used for. So for John Mahama's 120 billion Ghana cedi debt, I saw Kwame Nkrumah interchange. And I used to use that road. Randy, I used to spend 40 minutes. Randy, and if you remember, Randy, when we were at the old place, there was a day you told me the next time I come late, you will not let me ever come on your show again. Because I used to be perennially late. Jane fought me. I leave home at 6 o'clock, but I always go to the show late. Today, thanks to Kwame Nkrumah interchange, John Mahama failed from that 120 billionaire. Randy, I get here early because I don't spend more than 3-4 minutes at Kwame Nkrumah circle. Randy, from John Mahama's 120 billion, we saw the Kaswa interchange, which is 3 interchanges. Everybody knows what used to happen at Kaswa. We saw the change there. From that 120 billion, we saw the Obechebi Lamte interchange, phase 1. We saw the Terminal 3. That has become the cynosure of West Africa and Africa. In fact, Terminal 3 has on 2 consecutive occasions after it was built won the best airport in Africa. John Mahama's legacy, 120 billion. And that 120 billion, the Tema-Mpakadan railway line, A.M.E. In that 120 billion, the Tema interchange that came from JICA in there. In that 120 billion, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, not what all a region, we see it in there. We see the University of Ghana Medical Center, that was in that 120 billion. We see the Regional Maritime University Hospital, that was in that 120 billion. We see the Bank of Ghana Hospital, where the ministers of President Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, who got COVID, went and got treatment. All from John Mahama's 120 billion. Efiam Kwanta Regional Hospital. And I'm mentioning hospitals because the Minister for Health is here. And he can admit to all of this, that I'm not lying about these hospitals. All in the 120 billion. We saw President Mahama lay the longest fiber ring, 770 kilometers of optic fiber, Eastern Corridor fiber. We saw the building of the National Data Center and the construction of over 100 community enhanced information centers. All in 120 billion. As for the E-blocks, over 45 of them fully completed and operational. Under John Mahama, 120 billion. We saw the Tamale Airport, where for the first time our fathers and mothers who were going for Hajj didn't have to do the perilous journey by road to Accra before flying. They flew from Tamale straight to Mecca. We saw the phase 1 of the Kumasi International Airport. All done, 120 billion. We saw the KJTR markets and the Kotokraba market, all from the 120 billion. In fact, that part of that 120 billion was the Cape Coast Isipon Stadium. All 120 billion Ghana cedis. Now the man who has done 670 billion and counting, all he can account for is free SHS, which we are told has cost us 11 billion. So the rest of the money, Randy, in the sky, we need to ask ourselves, what can I have given you off the top of my head? At least 25 projects from the 120 billion for John Mahama. Randy, you are the host, but I plead with you, give Oko Boy 5 minutes to name 20 projects under this MPP government from the 670 billion that Bawumia has pretended. You see, he says Bawumia will come and tell us he can do this to the currency, and we don't want to hear what Bawumia says he will do. He is vice president now. He is head of the economic management team now. What is he doing? Andy, what you pass your baby to man? Bawumia is currently in charge of the economy. What has he done to the currency? What is it that he says he will make the port the same price as Togo? Why is he not doing it now? Bawumia says he will take out e-levy and betting tax. But Bawumia is the same person who introduced the e-levy and betting tax. So how can we believe the man who brought it? This is not about Fastia and Nemami. This is about what his legacy and work is. Why is Bawumia not speaking about corruption? Randy, I challenge anybody in the MPP to send a video to you right now for you to play all of Bawumia's thoughts. Bawumia speaking on corruption.
I'm asking this nation to reconsider, this government to also reconsider how we're being governed as a nation. Give us the right, give us the chance so we can practice democracy the way it's supposed to be practiced. And I'm saying this boldly, that politicians will come and go. Their lifetime is 4 to 8 years. But the government is the body of this country, is the fundamental basis of how we as a nation should be governed. And therefore, we cannot govern this nation based on the politician's interest. Factories no kura bi da so wo boss wa as say there the kuro no tiatom me buy adwanto na me de brem o ma ye chance na 2 million ahode e wo sese no intimi fancy si na o ma biye na nkura so o mu di achi ba ene o mo ayen wo mo no o so atimi abegnya bibi papa o mo be di achire
ye say the furuduapa na ye piano Ghana nyi obi ade a intimi sraw akokoduru a wafa no kura sa akokoduru no ekon so no nye koketwa mesiesi akotade de ahye
de bia himfia ma me amma me akudi atare ahye ama ya pagya me ye digunim
maso ho da ye se wo nipa wo ba fa wo